Let us be honest, the 1960s produced some of the most annoying, ridiculous, and downright baffling songs ever to assault human ears.
I just can't believe the wonder of this feeling too. I just can't.
Songs that somehow became massive hits despite making listeners cringe. Songs that got stuck in your head and refused to leave, no matter how hard you tried to forget them. These are 10 60s songs we would rather forget. But somehow, we never can. In 1962, actress Shelley Fabares took a break from her role on The Donna Reed Show to record a song that would haunt school dances for years to come. Johnny Angel was a dreamy, saccharine tribute to an idealized teenage crush. The kind of boy who apparently had no flaws, no personality, and no actual presence in the song beyond being perfect. The production was slick and professional, which somehow made it worse. This was not a rough demo that accidentally got released. People worked hard on this. They layered those backing vocals with care. They polished every sugary note until it gleamed. And the result was a song so sweet it could give you a toothache from across the room.
I dream of him and me, and how it's gonna be.
The arrangement featured lush strings and a choir of voices that seemed designed to maximize the sentimentality to an almost unbearable degree. It reached #1 on the Billboard charts, proving that sometimes the public cannot be trusted with purchasing power. Fabares herself seemed surprised by its success and quickly returned to acting, but the damage was done. Johnny Angel had been unleashed upon the world, and generations of listeners would suffer the consequences. The song became a template for countless similar teen idol ballads that would follow, each one trying to capture that same formula of innocent longing wrapped in orchestral syrup. The New Beats arrived in 1964 with a song that answered a question nobody had asked. What would happen if you combined a nursery rhyme melody with lyrics about breakfast food and relationship jealousy? The answer was Bread and Butter, a track that somehow climbed to #2 on the charts. The vocal style was the first problem. Larry Henley sang in a bizarre falsetto that sounded like he was being slowly squeezed while recording. The effect was jarring, unsettling, and impossible to ignore. Once you heard it, you could not unhear it. That voice burrowed into your brain and set up permanent residence. Music critics at the time were baffled by the success, unable to explain why audiences responded so enthusiastically to such an unusual vocal approach. The song told the story of a man upset that his partner was now making breakfast for someone else. The metaphor was thin, the melody was repetitive, and yet radio stations across America played it constantly throughout the summer. Sometimes the 60s made no sense at all. The New Beats would try to replicate their success with similar novelty-style tracks, but they never quite recaptured the strange magic of their breakthrough hit. Brian Hyland was only 16 years old when he recorded this novelty nightmare in 1960. That youth might explain, but certainly does not excuse, the creation of one of the most irritating songs of the entire decade. The title alone takes longer to say than some complete songs, and that was just the beginning of its problems. The song told the story of a shy girl afraid to come out of the water in her new swimsuit. Charming concept, perhaps, for about 30 seconds. But the song stretched this thin premise across nearly 3 minutes of repetitive, bouncy torture. The backing vocals chirping away between verses only added to the assault on good taste.
She was afraid to come out in the open.
The production team clearly thought they were creating something fun and lighthearted, never imagining that decades later people would still be involuntarily humming this melody against their will. It reached #1 in multiple countries, proving that the entire world had temporarily lost its collective mind. Hyland would go on to have a respectable career with more serious material, but he could never escape this song. It followed him everywhere, requested at every show, a musical albatross hanging around his neck forever. In interviews years later, Hyland expressed mixed feelings about the track that made him famous, acknowledging that while it launched his career, it also overshadowed everything else he ever accomplished.
Well, here I sit high, getting ideas, ain't nothing but a fool to live like.
Roger Miller was genuinely talented. He could write clever lyrics, craft memorable melodies, and deliver performances full of personality, which makes it all the more frustrating that Dang Me became one of his biggest hits. Released in 1964, the song showcased Miller's wit but wrapped it in a package so goofy that it became exhausting on repeated listens. The song featured Miller, essentially making fun of himself as a lazy, irresponsible character who deserved punishment for his many failings. The self-deprecating humor was amusing the first time, maybe even the second. But radio stations played it so relentlessly that the charm evaporated quickly, leaving only the annoying repetition behind.
Woman, would you weep for me?
The country music establishment embraced Miller as a fresh new voice, not realizing they were helping to unleash a novelty hit that would define his public image for years. The nonsense syllables scattered throughout the track did not help matters. Miller seemed to be having fun, which only made it more annoying for listeners who were not. He won multiple Grammy Awards that year, proving that the Recording Academy sometimes rewards the wrong material from the right artists. Miller himself would later acknowledge that he was capable of much deeper, more meaningful work, but the public always wanted to hear his silly songs instead. Paul Anka was barely out of his teens when he wrote and recorded Puppy Love in 1960. The song was a plea to be taken seriously despite his youth, an argument that teenage romance was just as valid as adult love. Noble sentiment, perhaps. Terrible song, definitely. The melodrama was overwhelming. Anka threw himself into the performance with the kind of desperate sincerity that makes listeners uncomfortable. Every note dripped with theatrical emotion. Every word was delivered as if the fate of the world depended on it. The effect was less romantic than embarrassing, like watching someone cry at a restaurant over a minor inconvenience.
Because we're 17.
The orchestration swelled at all the expected moments, manipulating emotions with all the subtlety of a sledgehammer. The song became a hit anyway, reaching the top 20 and establishing a template that countless teen idols would follow. Decades later, Donny Osmond would cover it and prove that the song had not improved with age. Some musical mistakes simply refused to die. Anka would go on to write far better material for other artists, including one of the most famous songs Frank Sinatra ever recorded. But Puppy Love remained a permanent reminder of his awkward early years.
Dominica, Nika, Nika, I will tell of Dominique.
In 1963, a Belgian nun named Janine Deckers recorded a simple folk song about a 13th century saint. Somehow, improbably, impossibly, Dominique became a worldwide phenomenon. It knocked Elvis Presley out of the #1 spot. It sold millions of copies. It made a woman in religious habit into an international pop star. The entertainment industry had no idea what to do with her, and frankly, neither did she. The song was pleasant enough on first listen, a gentle melody, acoustic guitar, vocals sung with genuine devotion, but radio stations did not play it once. They played it constantly, hour after hour, day after day, that same simple melody repeated until listeners wanted to scream. The verses blurred together. The chorus became inescapable.
Though I'm poor, said Dominique, as he spoke unto the Lord, I will be your help.
Even people who initially enjoyed it grew to dread its opening notes. The simplicity that initially seemed charming became maddening through sheer repetition. The story behind the song turned tragic. The singing nun struggled with the aftermath of her unexpected fame, eventually leaving religious life and facing financial ruin when the Belgian government demanded back taxes on her earnings. She had signed away most of her royalties to her religious order, leaving her with almost nothing when the fame faded. The cheerful song took on a melancholy undertone for anyone who knew what came after. Her story became a cautionary tale about the music industry's ability to chew up and spit out even the most unlikely stars.
Love you such a sweet thing, good enough to weep thing, and it's just what I'm gonna do.
Bubblegum pop hit its absolute lowest point in 1968 with the arrival of Yummy 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 by Ohio Express. The song was written by professional songwriters who knew exactly what they were doing, which makes its awfulness even harder to forgive. This was calculated, deliberate, premeditated annoyance disguised as music. The writers had studied what made songs stick in people's heads and weaponized that knowledge. The lyrics compared romantic feelings to various sweet foods with all the subtlety of a sugar factory explosion. The melody was designed to be catchy in the most aggressive possible way, burrowing into brains and refusing to leave.
Love to hold ya, I love to kiss ya. Oh love, I love it so.
Children loved it because children have no taste. Adults endured it because they had no choice. Parents across America found themselves humming the melody involuntarily, cursing under their breath as they realized what was happening. The song reached #4 on the charts and helped define an entire subgenre of disposable pop that prioritized catchiness over quality. Ohio Express would continue making similar music until the market finally rejected them, but the damage to musical culture had already been done. The bubblegum pop movement they helped pioneer would influence decades of manufactured pop music to come, for better or worse, mostly worse.
You are my candy girl, and you got me.
The Archies did not exist. They were cartoon characters, animated teenagers from a Saturday morning television show. And yet, in 1969, their fictional band scored the biggest hit of the entire year. Sugar Sugar spent 4 weeks at #1 and outsold every real musician in America. Think about that. The Beatles released Abbey Road that year, and a cartoon beat them. The song was performed by session musicians and sung by Ron Dante, a real person lending his voice to illustrated characters. The production was immaculate in its simplicity. The melody was engineered for maximum earworm potential.
I just can't believe the wonder of this feeling too. I just can't.
Everything about it was designed to appeal to the youngest possible demographic while still selling records to their parents. The marketing synergy between the television show and the record was revolutionary for its time, pioneering techniques that would later become standard in the entertainment industry. There is nothing technically wrong with Sugar Sugar. It accomplished exactly what it set out to do. But that is precisely the problem. It represented the triumph of commercial calculation over artistic expression. It proved that you did not even need real performers to have a hit. Just catchy hooks, heavy rotation, and a Saturday morning cartoon to promote it. Real musicians who had spent years honing their craft watched in disbelief as animated characters dominated the charts they had worked so hard to climb. In 1963, a band from Minneapolis created what might be the single most annoying song in rock history. Surfin' Bird took two earlier songs, mashed them together, and repeated the same nonsense phrase approximately 1 million times over 2.5 minutes. The result was either brilliant parody or oral torture, depending on your tolerance for repetition. The Trashmen had heard the original songs by the Rivingtons and decided to combine them into something new, something louder. Something with a screaming, unhinged vocal performance that sounded like a man losing his mind in real time. The band thrashed away at their instruments while their singer repeated the same words over and over and over again. The energy was undeniable, but so was the irritation factor. It became a hit because some people thought it was funny, others thought it was energetic, and still others played it specifically to annoy the people around them. The song found a second life in fraternity houses and college dorms, where its ability to drive people crazy was considered a feature rather than a bug. The Trashmen never had another hit anywhere close to this level of success, becoming the ultimate one-hit wonders. The song has since appeared in countless movies and television shows, usually to signify chaos, insanity, or extremely poor taste. Its legacy is secure, even if that legacy is primarily irritation. Directors love using it as shorthand for absurdity, and audiences immediately recognize what it represents. In that sense, Surfin' Bird achieved a kind of immortality that more respected songs never managed.
Ran one step ahead as we followed in the dance.
And finally, we arrive at the song that many consider the worst of the entire decade, possibly the worst of all time. In 1968, actor Richard Harris decided to record a 7-minute orchestral pop epic about a cake left out in the rain. The songwriter was Jimmy Webb, who was genuinely talented, which made the whole thing even more confusing. The song was about a failed relationship, with the cake serving as a metaphor for lost love. At least, that is what Webb claimed. To most listeners, it just sounded like someone was really upset about ruined baked goods. The dramatic orchestration, the sweeping strings, the passionate vocal performance, all of it devoted to dessert-based imagery that inspired more laughter than tears. Webb has spent decades defending his creation, insisting that critics simply do not understand its deeper meaning. Harris delivered the song with complete sincerity, as if he were performing Shakespeare. He built to emotional crescendos. He whispered with devastating intimacy. He apparently believed every word he was singing, which only made the cake references more bewildering. How could someone so committed produce something so ridiculous? The cognitive dissonance between the serious performance and the absurd imagery created a listening experience that confused audiences worldwide. The song was a hit, reaching number 2 in America and number 1 in several other countries. Donna Summer would later cover it and also have a hit, proving that the public appetite for overwrought cake metaphors was apparently limitless. Critics have debated its merits for decades. Some call it misunderstood genius, others call it pretentious nonsense. Everyone agrees it is unforgettable, for better or worse. The 1960s gave us revolution, innovation, and some of the most important music ever created. But they also gave us these 10 songs, proof that even the greatest decades have their embarrassments. Which of these songs haunted your childhood? Which one still gets stuck in your head against your will? Tell us in the comments which 60s song you would most like to forget. And share this with someone who needs to know they are not alone in their suffering.